I think we're live. All right, I'm just gonna wait for the room to fill up a bit. All right, get some people in here. I should be sharing the link as well. All right, here we go. So, okay, I'm in London. I was at the court today. I was at the Old Bailey. I watched the Assange hearing in the court, man. It's just as much an abomination as you would imagine. So, you know, first of all, you got to give huge credit, and I want to give a huge shout out to all the activists that are, you know, coming out in the early hours and queuing up and making this possible. You know, they're putting in that work, and it's really admirable. So I'm really grateful to everything they're doing. And yeah, I actually got to meet Assange, Julian Assange's father, John Shipton. That was really cool. This whole day has been surreal. This whole day has been really weird. But yeah, so you walk in, and so let me explain to you how this works. First of all, they let the family members in. Okay, so there's like a list. There's a tiny list of family members, or people who are considered family, and they have to go in the court first, and they find their seats, and then you have 5 people. That's all. 5 people who can get into the court, and I was one of those 5. And you walk up 6 flights of stairs. Okay, but actually before you start walking up, you got to go through a security check. Yeah, you're not allowed to bring in a phone. You're not allowed to bring in a laptop. You're not allowed to bring in anything, man. No electronics whatsoever. You know, you're lucky to get a pen and a pencil, essentially. So they X-ray you. You got to walk through the beep thingy, the metal detector. And you know, they take your jacket and they put it in this like iron coffin and they X-ray it. Yeah. It's like airport security. And then you got to walk up 6 flights of stairs, and you walk to the end of the hallway to the court, and it's just like 3 rows of seats, and you're looking down at the press. So there's essentially an entire courtroom with members of the press that are on their laptops, and you're sitting right above them watching everything on the screens with them. We're all in the same room. And next door is the court. So like Julian Assange is on the other side of the wall. Do you understand? The whole court, the proceedings is on the other side of the wall. So technically speaking, there's no press in the court. Technically speaking, do you know what I mean? In that room, it's just the judge, prosecution, defense, and Assange. That's it. And next door, you have the press and members of the public. Now, you got to consider that this room can accommodate 40 people. But because of COVID, they revoked remote video access? What does that got to do with COVID? They revoked remote video access for 40 people on the first day. And then, you know, they limit the number of seats in the courtroom because of COVID. Okay, I understand that. But there's no mask mandate. What? Hold on a second. If you're limiting the seats because of COVID, why don't people have to wear a mask? This is ridiculous. I'm like the only person wearing a mask in the whole court. Anyway, dude, so we're watching this thing unfold, and you got to consider something like Ambassador Craig Murray and myself. We're paying union dues to the journalists union, and they won't issue us press cards. What? You know, does that have something to do with the fact that we're reporting about Julian Assange? You tell me, man. Don't you think it's a bit weird? Anyway, so my point is that, you know, if you could technically enter as a member of the press, and then you got your laptop and your phone, but you're still in the same room. You're just it's like 2 meters difference. That's it. And the other thing, you're not even allowed to bring water. So man, I'm sitting there all day. I can't eat, I can't drink, and there's like a 1 hour break. It's not even 1 hour because you got to come back early to get back in for the afternoon session. So it's such a mockery. You got to keep in mind, this is the Old Bailey, man. Like, anybody should be able to walk off of the street, walk right in, and look at what's going on. It's a public court. It's a public hearing. Okay? And they're making out to be a secret trial. Of course they are. So, yeah, I just wanted to fill you in on this stuff. So, yeah, let me tell you what happened today. Let me tell you what happened in the hearing. So, wow, there's so many points, man. That I took so many goddamn notes. You know what's funny? Like, I was thinking about this. Like, I'm sitting there like some journalists from the 1800s. Like, seriously, like in the Old Bailey. I got my fucking notes, and I'm just jotting down like quickly what's happening, everything. It's insane, man. It's insane. Some shit doesn't change, right? Anyway, so I took so many notes. We're gonna get through all of them, okay? I don't care if this takes an hour. You're gonna sit here and listen, goddammit. So, the first expert witness that we had today was Maureen Baird. I don't know if I'm saying her surname correctly, but she used to be the warden at the MCC, so the Metropolitan Corrections Facility in New York. This is where Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. He didn't kill himself under her watch. She was there until 2016, I believe, for a few years, and for 3 years. And Epstein killed himself in 2019. We'll get to him in a second, but essentially the reason she's testifying, and she's testified before in other extradition hearings from the UK to the US, is because, you know, this is her field of expertise. She's a prison warden, and she's supervised prisoners under SAMs who've been subjected to these special administrative measures, right, which are akin to torture. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. These things, they're reserved for terrorists. Do you understand? And so, I mean, this is quite surreal. And man, I was standing like right next to Kristen, the editor-in-chief for WikiLeaks, just like an hour ago when he's talking outside the courthouse. Like, we're having a conversation in this courtroom comparing Julian Assange to fucking terrorists. You know why? Because there's no precedent. There are no other journalists under fucking SAMs. You have terrorists that are placed under SAMs. And yet we're having this conversation like, oh, do you think that it will be sort of like a holiday resort if he gets the SAMs? What the fuck? We shouldn't be talking about this. What is going on? Man, I'm laughing because I'm going to cry otherwise. Like, this shit is surreal. It's unbelievable that this is a thing. I can't believe that I just... So, she God, it's so much shit to say, man. It's unreal. So anyway, we're talking about the SAMs, right? And first of all, you have Fitzgerald from the defense. He's asking her questions. So, you know, God damn it, I lost my place. Here we go. I really have a shit ton of notes, man. I really do. So anyway, yeah, he was asking her about this, and she was adamant. She was very clear that Julian Assange will be placed under SAMs. Like, you need to understand something. If this wasn't already abundantly clear, and I've told you this crap, like, from every other expert witness, Julian Assange is going to be placed under SAMs. There's not one person who has not said that, okay? I mean, we're talking pre-trial and post-trial, okay? So we're talking at ADC, Alexandria Detention Center, before he's even convicted of a crime. And then again, afterwards, he'll be sent to ADX Florence in Colorado, and then placed under SAMs indefinitely. And so, you know, she was talking about recreation. He asked her, Fitzgerald asked her, is there any recreation? And she's like, yeah. Prisoners, if you call this recreation, prisoners can go out of their cell into a recreation room, but they're alone. I mean, I don't know how that's supposed to be recreation if you're alone, but, you know, the point that she's trying to make here is that you're always isolated. Always. You will always be isolated. And this is something that the prosecution tried to argue against the entire day, saying, oh no, if you're subjected to SAMs, you're not isolated. Look, it's a holiday resort. So, you know, that was just ridiculous. And then Fitzgerald is asking her, well, what other privileges, quote unquote, does a prisoner get when they're placed under SAMs? And, you know, you get one phone call a month. All of the mail, you're not allowed to use email, obviously, so you're left with traditional mail. And all of that is screened. All of it. Okay? This takes months sometimes, she said. Okay? So the letters coming in, they're all open, they're screened, all of it. And we'll get to a funny story about that in a second about the mail. God, you won't believe this shit. So, I was seriously, like, we were laughing in the courtroom. Like, did she just say that? Anyway, so another thing is that the FBI also listen into your phone calls, right? And they have interpreters even. So, like, if they keep terrorists in there and, they'll drag you from the other end of the globe if they have to. And if they need an interpreter to listen into you, they will. And they don't care if you're speaking to your legal counsel even. You know, they claim that if you're talking to family, they'll put you under surveillance and monitor the phone calls. But now with legal counsel, there's still attorney-client privilege. No, there isn't. They're still monitoring that too, make no mistake. So these are the amenities and the privileges that you get. Do you understand now? You get one phone call a month. How nice. It's monitored by the FBI. That's free of charge. And you can have a recreation time by yourself. And your mail is screened. Wow. I mean, this is just wonderful, right? You know, this is just amazing. So, yeah, also you have to request your phone call weeks in advance. How nice. It's not like, oh, I want to make a phone call to my family right now. I miss them. No, it's you have to request it. You have to wait like a dog. So, again, I'm going through all my notes over here. So, yeah, this is just crazy, dude. And, you know, it was very clear from what Maureen is saying that it makes no difference whether you're charged with terrorism, whether you're charged with leaking classified information. There's no differentiation. If you're going to be placed under SAMs, you're going to be given SAMs. There's no gray area. She said this, right? She said it's very black and white. There's no gray area. It's very clear cut, because what the prosecution were trying to argue the entire day is that, oh, well, you can alleviate some of these restrictions. It's very weird. You know, they always they don't know what they're trying to argue, the prosecution. 1 minute, they're trying to convince the court and the judge that Julian Assange is not going to be placed under SAMs. Why would you suggest such a thing? And then they're trying to argue, well, even if he is placed under SAMs, it's not going to be harsh. They can't make their minds up. It's just like when they argue, oh, he's not a journalist. And then, well, even if he is a journalist, we have the right to prosecute journalists. Which one is it, you fucking assholes? God, they're lucky we're not in the same room, man. I'd lose my shit. So, you know, she also said, I'm quoting her here, right? She said, short of stage 4 cancer, there are no exceptions for SAMs. So this idea that if you have mental health problems or any kind of physical debilitation, anything, nothing will exempt you from SAMs. You are going to be placed under SAMs. You will be put in these conditions if the government is out to get you, all right? They won't alleviate your suffering whatsoever. Short of stage 4 cancer, that's what she said. All right? So, I'm going to... Well, we got 175 people watching. That's amazing. But only 91 likes. Please make sure you hit the like button for the love of God. Okay? The algorithm does not like us, so let's try and do our best here. So, yeah, there was also talk about what a case manager can do, what a warden can do. Nothing. There's nothing they can do. She said, quote, I've never seen SAMs overturned. It doesn't happen. It never happened. Okay? Forget about it. And the point was made also that SAMs are reviewed yearly, on a yearly basis. So they're renewed every year. And guess what? To nobody's surprise, over 80% of them are, they've been placed under these horrible special administrative measures for longer than a year. And 12% of those 80% have been under SAMs for over a decade. All right? So when you get into that shit, there's no coming out. It's atrocious, man. It's atrocious. So, you know, the defense is asking her, have you met with prisoners that have been subjected to SAMs, that have been placed under SAMs? I mean, we know the question, yes, because under her watch as warden in MCC, she had prisoners that were placed under SAMS. So she said, yeah, and then Fitzgerald asked her, what are the effects that this has? What are the effects that SAMs have on prisoners? And she said depression, anxiety, paranoia, weight loss. There's a severe detriment to their physical and psychological health, all right? This extreme isolation is bad. And there you go, yeah. She said exactly, yes. Exact same conditions as a terrorist, okay? Fitzgerald asked her, if Assange is sent to pretrial and he's convicted and sent to ADX Florence, will he be placed under the same conditions as a terrorist? And I'm quoting her here, exact words, okay? Quote, exactly, yes, the exact same conditions. Unquote. So, she also quoted the former warden of ADX Florence, Robert Hood, who said that ADX is not built for humanity. That's an understatement. I like the other quote that he said where he said it's much worse than death. I think that's more fitting. So they were also talking about the step-down program. That was a big topic today, the step-down program. The prosecution tried to make the case that, well, look, even if he's sent to, you know, whatever facility, ADX Florence or ADC, and he's placed under SAMS, it doesn't matter because we have a step-down program, and AUSA Kronberg referred to this. And look, it's like you can earn your way into better conditions. And you have phases, right? You have phases. So phase 1, you get an extra phone call a month. Yes, it doesn't, that's it. It's not much else, man. Oh, sorry, that's phase 2. That's phase 2, my bad. But guess what? Guess what happens with phase 3? You ready for this? The prosecution were trying to argue that you get more contact with inmates. Turns out this is nonsense because this defeats the whole purpose of SAMS, which is to screw you and put you in isolation. So Maureen Baird, she did not see this happening and does not see it happening. All right? And she made that very clear. This idea that Assange can earn his way into phase 3 is ludicrous. He will not be placed in another cell with a bunk. He's not going to have a buddy. No, it's not happening. All right? So this stuff is designed to screw with you mentally, physically. It's made to break people. All right? There's no coming out of it. So there was also this idea that, you know, if the prisoner progresses in this step-down program, would they be able to meet their family and like hug their family, okay? Have physical contact, association as they refer to it in the court. No, it's not happening. You will not be able to hug your family or meet your family, no. Okay, so that's not happening. This was hilarious. At one point, Dobbin, right? Because today Dobbin was taking over the prosecution, not Lewis. Dobbin, God, she's got such a shrieking voice. It was atrocious. Oh, would you suggest? So she was trying to say that, you know, if ADX is so bad, how come these prisoners have said that they would like to stay there and like their sentence to continue there? And Maureen gave a great answer. She said that this is an anxiety-provoking question. Why? Because what they're going through in ADX Florence is already so bad, they're scared of being sent somewhere else to something even worse. Guantanamo Bay, perhaps? I don't know. Probably. So, I mean, if you're in ADX Florence, yeah, there's... Who knows, man? You could easily be sent to Guantanamo the next fucking day. I mean, you're at the top of the list as a candidate for that. No? Wouldn't you argue? So, yeah, I can definitely see why that's an anxiety-inducing question. So, yeah, that does not mean they want to stay in ADX Florence, okay? Y'all got to give me a second. I really got a ton of notes. I just want to make sure I get everything down for you. So, there you go. Yeah, and the defense asked her, so there is evidence of prisoners in complaining about the conditions, and she was like, yes, definitely. And then she was asked also about the suicide prevention program, right? Do you see the reaches, by the way, that this whole case has? Once again, I'm just pointing this out to you. First off, they're starting out like, oh, well, Assange, he might not get convicted with something serious. You know, he'll just get maybe 63 months. Look at all these other people that were extradited. They didn't serve a long time. Why are you so scared, right? That's what the prosecution say. And then they move it up, right? They go up a notch. They say, well, look, even if he's convicted, who said he's going to be at ADC and ADX Florence? Who said that? Who said he's going to be placed under SAMS? and then they try to argue, well, even if he is placed under SAMS, who said SAMS are harsh? Look, you have a step-down program. Look, you can earn your way into an extra phone call a month. How humane. And then they try to argue, well, even if he is in SAMS, who said that he has mental health issues and that this is going to be detrimental for his health? Look, we have a great suicide prevention program. Oh my God. Like, this is insane. We're talking about a fucking journalist here, not Adolf Hitler. What is going on? What the fuck did he do that is so bad that we are even having this conversation about where he's going to be sent? I mean, this is a kangaroo court. It's fucking nuts. It's nuts. They're talking about this guy like he's not real. They're talking about Assange like this is not a human being. Like his life is expendable. It's unbelievable. So Maureen, she made the point that, listen, people do good work in the Bureau of Prisons. She respects the psychologists and all this stuff, and they have a robust suicide prevention program. But if somebody is bent on taking their own life, they will. That's the point that she made. All right? And she was very clear that, you know, you've had SAMs since Bill Clinton, remember? So they've been around for a while, since Oklahoma bombing. But after 9/11, everything changed. So that's very important to note that. And I'm sure you already know this. It's not just SAMs that changed, the entire goddamn world changed. But it is important to note that they became much more restrictive, and there you go. Now, moving on to the prosecution. Yes, this is we have a lot of shit to get through. Once again, she started trying to attack the expert witness. I mean, she's doing exactly what Lewis does. This is the prosecution strategy the whole time. Now, you're not gonna believe this shit, what she tried. I mean, this is really some borderline nonsense. I mean, it's definitely nonsense. I mean, it's borderline psychotic. So she was trying to argue about the credibility of Maureen and saying that, well, sure, you've had people placed under SAMS under your watch as a warden, but that was just in pre-trial. How are you qualified to talk about post-trial? What? Like, were you not listening to what she just said? That this is stupid. It doesn't matter if it's pre-trial or post-trial. SAMs are SAMs. It's a directive. There are very clear restrictions. There are very clear guidelines on how the prisoner is going to be treated. It doesn't make a difference if it's pre-trial or post-trial. That's the fucking issue. That's the whole point, you dingus. That's what she's saying. That's what we're trying to say here. That the guy's not even convicted of a crime. You could be in pre-trial and still placed under fucking SAMs. You're not even guilty of a crime yet, and you're being treated like a terrorist. What is that? They're making out to be like she doesn't know what she's talking about. So that was stupid. That was ridiculous. And then another ridiculous point that she made. She tried to ask, so this is Dobbin, right? She tried to ask Maureen, can you name anyone placed under SAMs? And she couldn't. I think she just said Abu Hamza, and that's it. She couldn't name any people placed under SAMs. What does that got to do with anything? I mean, it's like for example, it's like asking someone, can you name all 50 states in the U.S.? And then somebody tells you no. Oh, you see, that means there aren't 50 states in the U.S. What are you saying? That those things are irrelevant. The fact that Maureen cannot name all of the prisoners or some prisoners that are placed under SAMs does not mean that SAMs are not inhumane. It does not mean that SAMs are applied to people pre-trial and post-trial. It does not mean, or it does not make it any less likely that Assange is going to be placed under fucking SAMs. What difference does it make that she can name other prisoners under SAMs? It's stupid. This is absurd. So this is another way that they were trying to attack her credibility. You understand? Fucking just childish shit. Childish shit. And she couldn't name anybody that had completed the step-down program, right? So this stupid thing with the phases, as if that makes it any better. And another thing that Dobbin tried to argue, which was, I mean, I couldn't believe that this came out of her mouth. She was trying to argue in favor of their suicide prevention programs by saying that, look, only 10 out of every 100,000 commit suicide. And then she was asking her, like, would you not agree? Do you not appreciate that this is like something to be proud of? And Maureen gave an excellent answer. She said, one is too many. That's the only answer you can give, man. Let's be real. One is too many. Not, oh, wow, 10 out of every 100,000 is a great figure. No, it's not. She called it, oh, it's a writ. Ridiculous. This is what they're arguing, the prosecution. So Maureen told her one is too many. And then Dobbin tried to press her. And for once, I was actually surprised. The judge cut her off. She shut her down. She was like, she gave her answer already. She said one is too many. It's like, yes, exactly. Thank you. So the judge doing her fucking job for once. Yeah, and you know, Maureen was talking about how you'll have guards, for example, they'll open this hatch, you know, the one they put food through, and check on the prisoner, and that's it. There's no conversing between guards and inmates. Not allowed. They're not allowed to do that. It does not happen. And Dobbin tried to use this against her. You're not going to believe this shit. What happened here is that Dobbin tried to accuse Maureen of being a hypocrite because when she was the warden of MCC, she did not tell her staff to talk more with the prisoners. What? And Maureen's trying to explain to her, listen, this is not something that happens. It's above my pay grade. You know, I'm not going to go and start arguing against directives and trying to reshape what SAMs are. And if I went and I told my guards to start talking more with the inmates, remember, not just any inmates, the ones under fucking SAMs, they would tell her that they don't get paid for that. That's not in their job description. She said that. That's a quote, direct quote. They would tell me that's not in their job description. Unquote. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and she tried to use that against her. Like, see, she's a hypocrite. She didn't tell the guards to talk to the prisoners. She hates the prisoners. Oh, this is so, it is farcical. Fucking nuts, man. Hold on, I'm getting lost. I got so many notes over here. Y'all gotta be patient with me. It's tiring, man. It's tiring. But we can't complain. We cannot complain. So, just going back over here to what Dobbin was trying to say. Yeah. Yeah, and this was a very important point. Dobbin tried to ask Maureen, well, how do you know that Assange is going to be placed under SAMs? Because again, they're trying to play this whole game that, like, even if he's extradited and he's convicted or not during pre and post, how do you know he's going to be placed under SAMs? And Maureen was like, well, listen, they didn't take it off the table, did they? It's still on the table. If the U.S. government was really adamant about not placing Assange under SAMs, they would not mention it. They would not bring it up. And the prosecution is saying, well, yeah, but AUSA Kronberg just mentioned it speculatively in the indictment. It's not a certainty. And she was asking, like, do you appreciate that? Would you appreciate that Kronberg did not say it's a certainty? And she's saying, well, look, they should have taken it off the table then. That's the truth. That's the truth. So Wow, we got 200 people watching. That's amazing. Make sure you hit the like button. We got a lot of shit to get through, man. Y'all ain't going nowhere. So I'm just trying to get through the prosecution's notes. So there we go. Yeah, so I don't know what Dobbin was trying to prove with this point, but they're trying to tell the court and Maureen that only the Attorney General, William Barr, is the one who can decide whether someone is placed under SAMs. Okay, that's true. Yeah, that's a fact. That's what it says. But I don't understand how this is a good thing. You'll see in a bit that Fitzgerald actually showed this as a bad thing. And I also thought the same thing. Like, how is that good? William Barr has openly said that the Department of Justice are the hands of the president. They will do whatever he wants. That's not a good thing. And Maureen, you know, the prosecution, Dobbin was trying to say that, well, look, the only way that somebody will be placed under these SAMs is for reasons pertaining to national security. So the prosecution was trying to say, look, we don't do this to everybody. We only do this when it's absolutely necessary. Only then do we put people under these harsh, inhumane prison conditions. And then Maureen said, yeah, they can make that argument. That's a direct quote. Translation, the government will fucking lie. The government will fucking lie. Of course they will make that argument. Of course they will say, yeah, it's because of national security that we have to put Julian Assange under SAMs. You motherfuckers. What are you trying to tell us here, man? Sometimes the prosecution, that's really dumb shit. I'm like, you just tripped yourself up. How is that a good thing? You just said some ridiculous stuff. And then Dobbin straight up attacks her. It's like, you're not in a position to say that. You're not in a position. How are you in a position? So I was like qualifying her with that. And then Maureen was brilliant. She said, well, they've made that argument. The government has made that argument and they've proposed it. It's in the indictment, stupid. Did you not read it? You're the prosecution. So, yeah, they were also, again, Dobbin tried to like discredit rather Maureen's record by asking her, well, how many prisoners did ADX Florence are placed under SAMs? Do you know the exact figure? Check this out. Maureen, she said somewhere between 45 and 50. That was her guess. And then Dobbin is like 43. Who the fuck cares? Would you missed it by 2? Wait, how's that supposed to discredit her? I don't understand this crap. It's like watching a child, honestly. And then she asked her how many because of espionage. And she said, I don't know. Turns out it's 9 people. 9 people. Okay. What does that mean? I mean, if you got 250 prisoners in ADX and you got about 43 under SAMs and only 9 of them are because of espionage, are we supposed to believe that that's something rare? Like, what is that supposed to mean? That the prosecution are trying to show how lenient the U.S. government is? That, oh, we don't put everybody who's charged under the Espionage Act under SAMs. We would never do such a thing. Well, clearly you do. 9 is 9 too many. No? Is it not? And then Dobbin, she tried to say, you're wrong. SAMs can be modified. Do you accept that? Sometimes you feel like she's an answering machine or something. Do you accept that? No, SAMs cannot be modified. Maureen made that very clear. They cannot be modified. And the way that they're trying to argue this in the court is that, well, look, if you take prisoners that are placed under SAMs and they can they can participate rather in this step-down program, and they can maybe gain 1 extra phone call a month or whatever it is, that this somehow modifies SAMs. And Maureen tried to make this very clear. There's no way you're going to modify SAMs, because the whole point of the fucking SAMs is to isolate the prisoner. It's to put them in solitary confinement and to break their spirit and break their brains. That's the whole point of SAMs. So anything that you are suggesting would defeat the entire purpose, okay? She made that very clear. And, you know, there was this entire, once again, here we go, showing that the prosecution are trying to argue anything they can, and they don't even know what the fuck they're trying to say. So now they got to the point, well, even if someone is placed under SAMS, even if Julian Assange is placed under SAMS, he can dispute them. Clearly he can dispute them. And Maureen made this very clear, no, you can't. Because they make sure that you've exhausted all administrative remedies. All right? That takes weeks, that takes months, that takes years. And then, only then, you can appeal the SAMS. And the prosecution trying to argue, no, that's not true. That's not true. Because there's one case where they were able to do this. And Maureen made it very clear, well, no, in pretrial, you certainly, definitely, most definitely cannot appeal against special administrative measures. It's not happening. So that, what does that mean? That means if Julian Assange is extradited to the US, he's going to go straight to Alexandria Detention Center in Virginia, and he's going to be placed in fucking SAMS, and he cannot do a goddamn thing about it. He can't do a thing about it. There is no legal framework in the fucking system that is going to help him. All right? He has to exhaust all the administrative remedies, which is a bunch of fucking bureaucratic bullshit that is going to take years. And then he'll be convicted anyway, and then he'll be sent to fucking ADX Florence before that shit even finishes. Do you understand what's at stake here? Man, I saw this dude. I saw this dude today. I saw Assange. I saw him sitting in the fucking box. Several times. That shit is harrowing, man. He was wearing the mask. He's wearing a face mask, and he was in his suit, this gray suit. And he's sitting in the box. There's a guard next to him. What is going on here, dude? He's in the next fucking room with this fucking pony show going on. So I'm just going through my notes. Once again, we have the prosecution arguing about all of these amazing, lucrative amenities that the U.S. government is ready to provide prisoners placed under SAMS. So Dobbin starts talking about the fact that you're allowed to meet with your lawyers pre-trial. What is so special about that? That's a given. That's a given in a so-called democracy. How is that a selling point? How is that supposed to convince anybody that being sent to a fucking supermax prison and thrown under special administrative measures is anything to be desired? I mean, this is the crap. This is how desperate they're getting. These are the straws that they are grasping at. And it's not even true. It's not even fucking true. And we'll get to that in a second with the next witness testimony. Okay, it's not even true. You can't meet with your lawyers easily. Huh. So, you know, once again, this whole attempt to discredit Maureen, I thought this was absurd. I mean, she's telling you that the only way you can speak to a prisoner is if you peek through the fucking food slot and talk to them that way. Have you guys watched Papillon? Do you know the film Papillon with Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman? This is a classic. This is a cult classic of cinema. Go watch that film, and you'll think of SAMS like that, okay? That's what it is. You know when Steve McQueen, he's thrown into this fucking dark room with no sunlight? That's literally SAMS. I'm not kidding. I showed you the video of ADX Florence of the warden, Robert Hood, talking about how you don't see the sun anymore. He said that once you go into the facility, you never see the sun again. They literally, they have goddamn covers over the cells to stop you from seeing the sun. Okay? Just like Papillon. They're going to shut you in the fucking dark, man, for months. Well, I mean, he was shut for months. When you go to ADX Florence, it's for life. It's for life. You're not seeing the sun again. Go and watch Papillon, and then you will understand what SAMS is like. Very similar. Great movie. It's really good. So, Yeah, and I found this absurd how the prosecution were trying to argue that Maureen is a hypocrite. Like, when you were the warden, you didn't tell your guards to go and talk to the prisoners more. So clearly, this shows that you were very acquiescent, or perhaps that you even were fine and complicit with special administrative measures. Like, trying to use this as some kind of indication that she's a hypocrite because she never opened her mouth in the past. And Maureen's trying to explain to them, listen, even if you're the warden of a prison and you have prisoners under your watch that are placed under special administrative measures, you can't do anything about that. You can't go and argue against the fucking attorney general. You can't go and change directives, national directives, about 50 prisoners. Remember, the entire country has about 50 people under SAMS. What the fuck do you expect a warden to do? I don't understand this. But apparently this is supposed to imply hypocrisy, according to the prosecution. Fucking hell, man. Oh, God. Yeah, and here we go again with these straws. More straws, man. We got straws. You ready for some straws? The prosecution, Dobbin, she was trying to argue that clearly SAMs are fine because no prisoner has ever been declared unfit to stand trial. And again, this is one of those moments where I'm listening to her, I'm listening to the prosecution, and I'm saying, how is that a good thing? You're showing us, you're indicating to the court that you are a bunch of assholes. You're showing us that you don't care about people's physical health, their mental health. Remember, to stand trial, they haven't been convicted yet. They're fucking innocent. In a democracy, in a supposed democracy, we assume that you are innocent until proven guilty. Yes? Right? The United States pretends to be the world's largest democracy. They're the beacon of fucking freedom. They bomb countries because they're so fucking free. Right? So you would assume that they have presumption of innocence. Yes? So they're telling us none of these prisoners were declared unfit to stand trial. Yeah, because you have no compassion and empathy. A lot of these people are under psychological and mental distress because of these harsh conditions. We know that for a fact. We've had a plethora of fucking doctors come and tell us this. You've had wardens that are telling you this 2 minutes ago. That's not a selling point. And they say this shit as if it's proof. You see? Our SAMs, they're so humane that no one was declared unfit to stand trial. What? No. Fucking hell, man. And another one, even better, say, and none of them were sent to a mental hospital. Yeah, because you're not going to give them any mental health treatment. Oh, God, this is terrible. And then she tried to use the Epstein suicide against her, right? So we talked about Epstein before. So as you recall, Epstein killed himself in August in 2019. Killed himself. Just like Seth Rich got robbed, right? And just like if you find me floating on the River Thames, yeah, I accidentally fell in, right? It's not an MI5 agent who pushed me in. Anyway, so GCHQ. So Epstein killed himself in August 2019 at the facility where Maureen was the warden, right? Metropolitan Corrections Facility in New York. Metropolitan Corrections Center. So Dobbin's point was that you didn't have any suicides. They didn't have any suicides at this place for 13 years. So clearly the suicide prevention program is working. And once again, I'm listening to that. Yeah, that just shows that Epstein did not kill himself, you dumb bitch. What the fuck are you trying to tell us? But she was trying to argue that this shows that the suicide prevention program works really well. And again, I'm thinking, well, we all know that Julian Assange is not even going to be sent there. He's going to be sent to ADX Florence. And they have suicides. So what's your point here? I mean, I'm just saying, you know? I'm just saying, man. Give me a second. Y'all give me a second. Bear with me. There's so much stuff. There's so many details. It's insane. And once again, we have more attempts to discredit the expert witness by asking ludicrous questions like, have you ever been to ADX Florence? Maureen said no, she's not been to ADX Florence, nor has she been to Alexandria Detention Center. Again, I don't understand what that means because she was the warden of MCC. She has had prisoners placed under SAMS under her watch. So we have the warden of ADX Florence, literally the fucking warden from that prison, telling you it's a fate much worse than death. I mean, who else do you need to testify? Like, at this point, you could get a dead prisoner to fucking testify at the court, and the prosecution would still be like, yes, but aren't there other prisoners in ADX Florence that are still alive? What? It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. There's no, in the eyes of the prosecution, there's no expert good enough for them. None. None. And if you haven't actually visited the facilities that you're talking about, they don't care. Well, you know what's really fucking funny? You know what's really interesting? Because last week, the judge blocked 2 witnesses. She blocked 2 witnesses from testifying, 2 of them from the Bureau of Prisons, one of them a psychologist. These are people who have direct experience, just like Maureen, by the way, who have direct experience with the U.S. prison system, who know exactly what ADX Florence is like, what SAMs are like, just like Maureen does, and she blocked them from testifying. Why would she do such a thing? Because it's very disadvantageous to the prosecution. That's why. Bullshit. But then she accepts the superseding indictment at the last minute. The indictment. Man, this is getting hot and heavy, man. My goddamn mind is racing over here. Yeah, so here we had a very interesting point of contention about what constitutes mental illness, serious mental illness, specifically, serious mental illness. So when we had Fazel testifying last week, if I recall correctly, he lectures at Oxford, right? He's a neuropsychiatrist, and he was making the case that to him, when we say a prisoner is at great risk of suicide or high risk of suicide, to him, that means in regards to the general population of that specific prison, not the general population, of people in the same age, same sex in the country as a whole. He wants to look at the prison population specifically, which is a very weird way to say that, yeah, all of these people are fucking suicidal, but I only care when one of them actually kills themselves. And so here, again, we have something similar coming from the prosecution, where they're trying to say that, yeah, well, even if somebody suffers from depression, that's not serious mental illness. And none of these people have been diagnosed with serious mental illness. What? Hold on a second. Stop right there. Who said depression is not a serious mental illness? There's a fucking epidemic of men killing themselves. 120 to 140 men kill themselves every day. How is that not a serious mental illness? It kills more than any other mental illness. What the fuck do you think is... I mean, this is ludicrous. This is scientifically, morally ignorant to say such a thing. Depression is not a serious mental illness? What? Apparently, to the prosecution, serious mental illness means psychosis, right? So unless you're throwing feces at the wall, they're not interested. And then Dobbin, she starts saying that, oh, well, look, at ADX Florence, only 14 inmates have serious mental illness. You don't think that's an issue? 14. Out of how many? What is it, 250, if I'm not mistaken? 14 have psychosis, according to the prosecution. That's if you're considering that depression, which kills hundreds of men every day, is not a serious mental illness. We're just talking psychosis here. 14! You don't want to check maybe why you have so many people with psychosis in one facility? Maybe it's because of the paranoia and the depression and the anxiety and all of this shit combined that's giving them psychosis? No? Just a guess. It's a wild guess. I don't know. Maybe you want to look into that. And then we had this whole debate about the prosecution asking Maureen if she accepts. Once again, would you accept? I love these statements. Asking Maureen if she would accept that people with serious mental illness can, in fact, be held outside of ADX Florence. Well, that question in of itself is an admission that ADX Florence is a fucking shithole, and it drives people crazy. If this facility, if this prison is so bad that someone with serious mental illness cannot inhabit it, well then maybe you shouldn't be putting people there in the first place. And then this is of course a lie, because what Maureen correctly pointed out is that there's no way that you are going to be held in any other environment other than isolation. So even hypothetically, if they remove you from ADX Florence and they take you to a federal treatment facility, you're still going to be fucking isolated, because that's the whole point of SAMS. It's to break you. Do you understand? So these federal facilities, I mean, the federal medical facilities, they're always going to have prisoners isolated. Okay, that does not change. And a lot of this psychosis comes from isolation. The paranoia, it comes from isolation. You're locked in a room for 23 hours a day. And once again, we need to take a step back here. Deep breaths. And realize what some fucking bullshit this shit is. Because this is a journalist we're talking about. And they're comparing him to a fucking terrorist. How is this an option? How are we even contemplating this shit? That you're going to go and throw this man in the can for 23 hours a day? And put him in isolation and he gets to call his family once a month? And he hasn't even been convicted of a fucking crime yet? How are we having this conversation? This is a journalist. And they're comparing him to the worst terrorists on the planet. They're going to put him in the exact same conditions. What the fuck is going on here? What is this horseshit? So, I mean, for fucking hours, man, you know, I'm sitting there listening to this shrieking voice from Dublin trying to argue that somehow SAMs can be alleviated and that they're not so bad. All of it garbage. The whole thing. It's all garbage, man. It's all garbage. Once again, here's a direct quote from Maureen. There's no gray area with special administrative measures. It's very black and white, unquote. SAMs will not be alleviated. SAMs will not be removed. SAMs will not be overturned, okay? Even in the case of severe mental illness, which for the prosecution means psychosis, even then, they will not be overturned. Is, like she said, man, it's very black and white. Now, moving on. We ain't nowhere near done, man. Like I said, I'm sitting in the court, so I got a lot of shit to say. My notes are a fucking mess. It's okay, though. It's okay. I told you, man, I'm sitting there like a journalist from the 1800s, just like jotting down everything. It's ridiculous, man. So, going back to Fitzgerald, to the defense, because he re-examined Maureen, and he correctly pointed out that, you know, the step down program, the statistics that the prosecution was trying to give, they're bullshit. Because what the prosecution said, I'm reading this to you, it says 252 inmates at ADX Florence are eligible for the step down program. Okay? What she didn't tell you, though, is that this 252 inmates, not all of them are placed under SAMs. And not all of the prisoners under SAMs are eligible for the fucking step-down program. Do you understand? So just because Julian Assange is sent there, it does not mean that he will be eligible for any kind of benefits or things that he may gain, such as we mentioned, phase 2, which would be 1 extra phone call a month. What is this fucking lunacy that we are debating here? What is this shit? I'm so angry. I really am, man. You know, step down program does not apply to SAM's inmates. I mean, and then, you know, just going back very briefly, because of the way that the prosecution, when trying to discredit Maureen, they're saying things like, "How do you know Assange is going to be placed under SAMs?" And I just told you a few moments ago that it's outlined in the indictment. They're mentioning it, so it's on the table. But they're trying to make a point that, well, you don't know the exact number of inmates that have had their SAMs overturned, so therefore you don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you didn't know that it's 5 inmates? You don't know what you're talking about. You're not in a position to talk about that. This is childish. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. And there was also a brief mention of Dr. Lukefeld talking about group therapy, right? That look, there's group therapy offered to patients suffering from mental illness. And once again, Maureen made the point, you don't know what you're talking about, and that's not how SAMs work. SAMs are designed to isolate prisoners. So the fact that you offer group therapy, the fact that you offer the step-down program, this shit does not apply to someone who's placed under special administrative measures. You know why? Because special administrative measures are not designed to be a holiday. They're designed to be hell. They're designed to torture people. And if Julian Assange gets extradited, he's going to be placed under that crap. Pre-trial, post-trial is going to be misery. They're not going to alleviate any of his suffering, not even give him 1 extra phone call a month. This is fantasy to suggest that he's going to have his SAMs overturned. This is ridiculous. It's a lie, and they know it. There you go, man. And Fitzgerald, he said that, as we've said a million times, it's in the indictment that Assange will be exposed to SAMs. So, there you go, man. So, once again, I want to give you this figure, okay? I want to give you this figure. You have 252 people in ADX, okay? You got 43 that are under SAMs. 13 have been under SAMs for over a decade. So if you think that the government is going to take away the SAMs or be lenient, forget about it, man. Once you go in, you are not coming out. You are going to stay there until you die. And you are going to stay suffering until you die. That's the big takeaway. I know I'm repeating myself, but this needs to be fucking understood by people who are deluding themselves into thinking that Julian Assange is going to some normal prison. And even if you were going to some normal prison, it's not normal to jail journalists. That's not fucking normal. There's nothing normal about all of this, any of this. There's nothing okay. I mean, do you think that Julian Assange being in the Ecuadorian embassy, this is a fucking embassy, man, with amenities. He could receive visitors, and he was still arbitrarily being held up in one apartment for 7 years. That's also not okay. So it doesn't matter how nice you make the goddamn conditions, according to the prosecution, it's still wrong. You're subjecting this man to extensive suffering because he exposed your war crimes, because he exposed your imperialism. That's what it's all about. That's what it comes down to. So going back to what Dobbin. Do you remember when she said that only the Attorney General, William Barr, gets to choose who is placed under SAMs? It's at his discretion. And I told you, when she said that, I was like, that's not a good thing. Why are you saying that? And Fitzgerald picked up on it. What does Fitzgerald tell her when he's re-examining Maureen? He brought this up again. He said, it's correct that only the Attorney General gets to decide who is placed under SAMs. Yes, Maureen confirms. And who advises the Attorney General on these matters? Can the CIA advise or recommend that Assange be placed under SAMs? Can the Department of Justice do that? Maureen says yes. Yeah, no shit. And what do you think the CIA and the Department of Justice are going to recommend to William Barr? What do you think they're going to tell Bill Barr? Don't place Julian Assange under SAMs? You motherfuckers. You think we're that stupid? What the fuck do you think they're going to tell him? Send him on holiday? Get out of here, man. Get out of here. This is clear bias. Oh, boy. So, yeah, and you know, just closing on the re-examination of the witness, they were just talking about how 82% of SAMs, I'm telling you this figure once again, they last longer than a year. 82% are renewed, right? They renew this on a yearly basis. 82% of them are renewed. You ain't getting out, man. And this stuff causes depression, anxiety. It's extremely detrimental being held in this H unit. So, and Maureen said she doesn't know of a single case of SAMs being overturned. She doesn't know of a single case, even though the prosecution are trying to argue that this is possible. No, it's not. No, it's not. So they talked about El-Hajj, or El-Hajj, as they were saying. This guy, he was able to contest his SAMs and appeal them during pretrial, okay? But he's the only exception. He's the only exception. And remember, the condition to appeal the SAMs is that you have to exhaust all of these administrative remedies. He didn't, and he was still able to appeal it. But you know what happened? You know what happened? Let me read the timeline to you. So, he was placed for 15 months under SAMs, okay? Then, he got lucky, and he got a bunk buddy. They let him bunk with another prisoner, right? Because the whole point is that you're placed under isolation, so this is the opposite. Now you have a bunk buddy. You have another human being to converse and interact with. So he got lucky. They placed him with a bunk buddy. Guess what happened? Guess what happens next? They sent him to fucking ADX Florence, and they yanked that shit away from him. No more bunk buddy. They sent him to ADX Florence, and he's back in isolation. And then when he appealed, it failed. So, I mean, if that's the only exception that you can fucking cite of somebody getting a bunk buddy in pre-trial, they haven't even been convicted of a crime yet. They're not guilty. You haven't even proven that they're guilty. Then I really don't know what to say. It doesn't inspire much confidence, to say the least. Yeah? This is no indication of a humane system. So, moving on to the next witness. The next expert witness that we had was the Lindsay Lewis. Okay, Lindsay Lewis. So, she's an attorney. She's an American attorney. she worked on Abu Hamza's case, and man, the beginning was fucking nuts. Like we couldn't even get the video working. You know, I'm sitting there, I'm sitting there in the court just watching the screen, and it's like the audio was crappy. So they asked her to log out and log back in. So she does that, and then she comes back, and we can hear her a bit better, but there's no video. There's no video, and then the judge is like, "We need 5 minutes to fix the tech issues," and I was like, "Oh my god." Again. So we're waiting like 10 minutes, 15 minutes until they got this fixed. And I think, honestly, I think the second time that she logged back in, it was her rear camera that was activated. Because like someone said it in the court. So I don't know what that was. Like we were seeing some weird gray shit. So maybe that was her rear camera. I don't know. Anyway, it finally got working. Man, I look tired as shit. I seriously look tired as crap. Whatever, it's fine. We shouldn't complain, honestly. We got nothing to complain about. So it finally gets working, and then Lindsay, she testifies about SAMs, right? So this was atrocious, honestly. This part, because Dobbin, she like talked for like 3 fucking hours. Nonetheless, I will guide you through it in a manner that is concise and consistent. So they were talking about Julian Assange being placed under SAMs, and of course, she said this is a certainty. She said it is a certainty and it's going to happen, no doubt. I don't know what the count is right now, but you tell me, how many expert witnesses have we had up until this point that have said that Julian Assange is most definitely going to be placed under SAMs, pre-trial and post-trial? You tell me, because I can't keep count anymore. It's probably every single one. Okay, it's every single one, man. Dropped out for a second. I think we're back. Back to the prosecution. Man, I need a drink of water. Can I get a sip of water? I'll read your comments. I'll read your comments while I'm trying to get a sip of water. I got this big ass jug over here. Fucking hell, man. Oh shit. Yeah, I'm telling you, we got no water in the court. So I'm looking down at these motherfuckers with their laptops. They're getting to drink water and like torture us with their food. I'm just like, bro, please. What? This is it, man. This is democracy in 2020, right? No, don't worry. I'm still here. I'm still here. God, my notes are a fucking mess, man. I can't believe this crap. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. But yeah, so once again, we got talking about this serious mental illness, right? And whether the prison system is going to accommodate anybody who's suffering from depression, anxiety, etc. No, they're not. Lindsay reaffirmed this to us. She said that the bar is very high, meaning, once again, to the prosecution, to the U.S. prison system, serious mental illness, depression does not count. They want psychosis. Otherwise, you're not seriously mentally ill. And she talked about also her defendant, her client, Abu Hamza, right? So he was extradited, and this guy, he had one eye. You know, he's got no arms, no hands, rather. He got 2 prosthetics, and she talked about how, you know, they were subjecting him not just to mental distress, but physical as well. So the guy's disabled, and they're still putting him through shit. All right? Now, once again, I mean, you want to argue about terrorists, that's one thing. For me, I find this absolutely absurd that we are even having this conversation. Why the fuck is Julian Assange being compared to terrorists? Why is this a thing? How is he being placed and sent to the same facilities as these motherfuckers? How is that possible? I don't care. I don't care how nice and how generous and how compassionate the United States prison system is towards terrorists. I really don't care. You know why? Because Julian Assange is not a fucking terrorist. And Julian Assange does not belong with terrorists. And Julian Assange does not belong under the same restrictions and conditions as fucking terrorists. Do you understand this concept? This should not be a conversation that we're entertaining. We should not contemplate these kinds of thoughts. And yet here we are. Here we are. We have to get the lawyer, Lindsay Lewis, of a fucking terrorist, Abu Hamza, to talk about how the US government does not care for people who have disabilities, who are who have their limbs missing, who are blind, whatever, or who are suffering from mental illness. That's the point that it's gotten to. That we have to get the human rights attorney, the fucking lawyer, for a terrorist to come and tell you how harsh the US government is. This is insane. It's obscene. It's really obscene. And she talked about how prisoners stay isolated for years. Once again, these things never get overturned. You know, it's just it's futile to suggest otherwise. And she talked about again how you only get one phone call a month, family visit, or lawyers. That's it. And she made the point again that, you know, even as a lawyer, you have no client-attorney privilege. Maybe they say, hypothetically, that they're not going to record the calls, but they are. We saw the other day how they prosecuted one lawyer. She got charged with terrorism and sentenced to 30 months, I believe, in prison for delivering a message. So they're listening, and they're even using it as evidence. So they will spy on you and then use that as evidence, just like they're doing with this case with UC Global, which we'll get to in a second. We'll talk about UC Global in a second. So once again, we come to another point that the prosecution loves to allege, which is that even if somebody's placed under SAMS, they can easily build a defense. There's no issue here. That's a lie. Lindsay talks about how this was absolutely not possible. You know, the prosecution, they said, well, you were able to visit Abu Hamza countless times when he was in jail. And then her response to Dobbin was that, yes, I was able to visit him countless times. Equally, however, there were countless times when I was prevented from visiting him. She cited an example where, where she was denied a visit because she forgot to write attorney on the form, even though it says that she's his fucking attorney on the letterhead, and they know who she is because she's been there a million times. So you have these little bureaucratic obstacles and roadblocks and things to trip people up on purpose and to screw with them. So as she said, just like she's met him countless times and she was able to meet him countless times in jail, also there are countless times when they were messing with her and preventing her from meeting him, and things like them saying that there are not enough spots for legal counsel, you know? So the whole point here is that this idea that if you're placed under SAMS, under special administrative measures, that you are still allowed to visit your that your family's still allowed to visit you, or that you can meet with your lawyers, is bullshit. Because they're going to make sure that you can't meet with your fucking lawyers. And even if you can meet with your lawyers, they're going to record the fucking phone calls and the meetings with your lawyers. Do you understand this? You're not even in the same room. You're sitting opposite them like through a fucking confession box when you're talking to your lawyers and with your family. And this whole point about the family as well. This idea that you can progress through the God damn it, I'm blanking right now. I'm so exhausted, man. You can progress to the step-down program and get to phase 3, and then you can have more visits from your family. Nonsense. You're not going to be able to hug them. You're not going to have any kind of physical intimacy. That's out of the question. That's not happening. Moreover, you can only visit family. I keep saying visit family. Family members can only visit you as long as the government has pre-approved them. Do you understand? The government gets to decide who in your family can visit you if you're placed under SAMS. So they're essentially telling you and deciding now who your family is. And just to underscore this point, this is the story that I've been waiting to fucking tell you. This is the story that I'm waiting to fucking tell you. Are you ready? Are you ready? You're not gonna believe this shit. You're not gonna believe this shit. So, wait, I want to get you the exact quote. I want to get you the exact quote, okay? I have it over here. So, one time, he sent a letter to his son, okay? He sent a letter to his son saying, "Tell my grandson I love him." That's the quote. "Tell my grandson I love him." You got it? And you know what happened as a result of that? Do you know what happened as a result of that? No more mail. You know why? Because to the government, he was communicating with a terrorist. Yes, they accused his 1-year-old grandson of being a terrorist. I'm not making this up. I'm not making this shit up, man. I was listening to that in the fucking courtroom. I'm like, she did not just say that shit. She did not just say that shit. Oh, she said that shit. She fucking said that shit, man. They accused a 1-year-old of being a terrorist. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to even say anymore. I don't know what to say. So Lindsay Lewis, right? She referred to this, and I quote, "arbitrary and punitive nature of SAMs," unquote. And that's when she talked about this story of the 1-year-old terrorist. I mean, come on, man, that shit is hilarious. You gotta laugh. And do you know what the prosecution said as a response? Do you know what Dobbin responded to that? She said, "You are aware his family have been implicated in very serious crimes." Look, do you want to see my note? Here, you want to see my notes? Excuse the handwriting. Again, this is a tiny notepad. Excuse the handwriting. Look at that. Can you see that? 1-year-old with the fucking question marks. What very serious crimes? It's a fucking 1-year-old. It's a baby. What serious crimes? It's a baby. It's a baby. It shits in its pants. It's a baby. What serious crimes? You're aware his family have committed very serious crimes? What are you talking about? It's a 1-year-old. This is the kind of shit that the U.S. prosecution is trying to use against Assange. I can't believe this. And again, they thought like, oh, it's a coded message and they're communicating with terrorists. And that's why we have to screen their mail and restrict their mail. Unbelievable. It's unreal. So, it's been a long ass day, man. It really has. It's been a long ass day. I want to wrap this up, so I'm going to try and fast forward now to the end, okay? I'm going to try and fast forward. I think you get the gist of it. We have 2 extra witnesses, once again, back to back, who are confirming Julian Assange is going to be placed under special administrative measures. Special administrative measures are extremely inhumane. They cause extreme psychological and physical distress, paranoia, depression, anxiety. Special administrative measures cannot be overturned. They cannot be alleviated. There are no examples or cases where they have ever been overturned or alleviated. Julian Assange will be placed under special administrative measures in pre-trial at Alexandria Detention Center before he's even convicted of a fucking crime. On top of all the crap at Belmarsh and the Ecuadorian embassy, and the spying, and the persecution. Do you understand? It's a certainty that he's going to be placed under SAMs. Moreover, this idea that you can, well, I already mentioned that you can't alleviate them in any way, right? Whether it's the step-down program or getting them appealed through, after having exhausted the administrative remedies, it's not happening. It's no way, there's no way out of it. Most of the people who are placed under SAMs, their SAMs are renewed every year. 82% are renewed and longer than a year. And 13% have been there for over a fucking decade. Okay? Moreover, what they're saying here is that the government have made it very evident in their indictment that they're going to place Julian Assange under SAMs. Like, this is not speculation. It's not conjecture. This is based off of their own personal experience. These are professionals, they're lawyers and wardens that have worked directly in the Bureau of Prisons with these people that are placed under SAMs. This is not conjecture from the outside. These are people from inside the system who are telling us these things. Okay, so their expertise should not be undermined. Now, moving on to the end of the proceedings today. Okay, moving on to the end of the proceedings. We had what is essentially a mini case management hearing, right? So talking about witnesses and who's going to testify next and who's going to be in the court, etc. And we got to talk about UC Global. So for those of you who are not familiar, although I'm sure most of you are, UC Global is this Spanish company that was hired by the CIA to spy on Julian Assange. Not too far from where I am right now. Well, it is actually. London is big. But yeah, at the Ecuadorian embassy. So right now you have a case going on in Spain against Morales, David Morales, who's the head of this company, UC Global. And the point that the judge was trying to make here today was that two witnesses who worked in UC Global, who worked under Morales, are going to testify this week. Okay? I don't think they're going to testify via video. It's going to be a written statement. And it's going to be anonymous. There was a request to keep their identities hidden because they're in danger of being fucking killed. Right? And the defense wants the judge to keep their identities anonymous. And the only reason that she did this, which was astonishing to me, it was really astonishing. The only reason she did this is because she wants to show mutual respect and coordination with the Spanish government. I mean, okay, that's a very noble thing to say, but don't you think that their fucking lives being at risk is perhaps maybe a higher priority than showing cooperation and mutual respect with another country? What are you talking about? I mean, if Spain if Spain had declined to keep them anonymous, that means you would also just refuse to keep their identities anonymous, like you would risk their lives willingly? Why the fuck would you do that? Regardless, thankfully, she had the she had the benevolence and graced us with this welcome decision of keeping their identities anonymous. So we're going to have written statements, I assume, from them. And they're going to talk about UC Global, who spied on Julian Assange. And, you know, friendly reminder over here, in case this wasn't glaringly obvious, when you use evidence that was collected illegally in a court case, that court case is usually thrown out. Any sensible judge, all right, would throw that case out on day one. There is no case. It's illegally obtained evidence. And nonetheless, here we are. Nonetheless, we have a kangaroo court going on. How is that possible? We know for a fact UC Global spied on Julian Assange. Not only Julian Assange, they spied on every person who walked through the door of the Ecuadorian embassy. They stole their phones, they photographed their SIM cards, they did tons of shit installing stuff on their phones. I mean, God knows, you have a plethora of journalists, independent, mainstream. I mean, they're spied on with the videos, their conversations were recorded, their devices taken apart at the door. I mean, this happened. This is not fantasy. We have all of this evidence. Again, go read the Grayzone articles that we covered, because mainstream media ain't going to cover it. I mean, you got journalists that were spied on themselves and they won't even talk about this. So we know this happened, and we know the CIA contracted them, and we know for a fact that the Ecuadorian embassy gave all of Julian Assange's personal effects to the Americans. So they have documents, they have, I don't know what hard disks or electronics, but they have a treasure trove, essentially, of illegally obtained evidence, okay, through the personal effects and through the spying. Do you understand? Moreover, they were fucking recording his conversations with his lawyers. You know, Julian Assange is not stupid. The guy knew that he's being recorded, so he would go and talk in the ladies' room even. And even that, they caught onto it and then they bugged it. So, I mean, they recorded conversations with his legal counsel. This should be thrown out on day one. Any judge should have thrown this out, and yet here we are. Here we are. It's fucking happening. It's a thing. This case is a thing. And this is the first time I've heard Morales mentioned. This is the first time I've heard UC Global even fucking brought up. It's week 4. We're about to wrap up in a couple of days. The whole thing is coming to an end this week on Friday. So this is where we're at. And what Fitzgerald of the defense was trying to argue is that the danger that is posed to these two witnesses who are going to testify is very clear, because the CIA, and he quoted them. I know you've heard these quotes before. We read them in the Grayzone article. The CIA were plotting to kill and poison Julian Assange. Dude, in case this wasn't obvious to you, the CIA is the same party that is the prosecution. Okay? The prosecution are representing the US government. That's the same thing. The CIA and the US government are the same thing. Okay? Yes, I know national security state. Semantics. Do you understand the point here? We have a court case, we have an extradition hearing where one party has been caught conspiring to murder the defendant. And yet we're just going about this as if it's like a given. Like, yeah, it's totally normal for the other party to be caught conspiring to murder the defendant, and we just act like this is not happening. What the fuck? They were talking about kidnapping and poisoning Julian Assange. Why isn't the prosecution being prosecuted? Why? It's insane. So Fitzgerald mentioned that, and he also brought up the fact that Morales, the head of UC Global, he was caught with the messages working for the Americans, and when Spanish police came to his house, they found a gun, they found an illegal firearm with the serial number filed off, right? Anonymized. And so this indicates a clear intent by a dangerous man to use such weapons. And the lives of these two witnesses are definitely at risk. So there you go. I'm excited. I'm anticipating to hear what they're going to say, because their testimonies are very important. But you know what was bullshit? Like at one point you had Lewis get up. Yeah, he showed his face. Lewis stood up, and he said that because we started discussing the witnesses that are going to testify tomorrow. So we have Andy Worthington, right? Now, if you remember, he's really good with all of the Gitmo stuff, Guantanamo Bay. And I actually didn't know he was going to testify, because he was supposed to last week, right? But there was an issue. But thankfully, he's going to be there. Lewis gets up and he says, "Well, I have a professional engagement, and he's not going to be able to make it in the morning." Like, what are you doing that you're so busy you can't come here? And his point was that he wants to cross-examine Worthington, and since he's not going to be there in the morning and he can only be there in the afternoon, I think Worthington is going to be back in the afternoon for cross-examination by the prosecution. There we go. That's it. That's fucking day 16, man. Okay? God, that was exhausting. I still feel it feels very surreal, the whole thing. It hasn't dropped yet that this actually happened today. It really hasn't. There you go. There you go. What am I supposed to say? This thing is a fucking abomination. This whole thing is a fucking abomination. Hey, Robert, I see your comment said, "Habibi, where in London? Come for Ergile." How can I resist such a wonderful proposition? How can I resist? I might have to get a nap first. You can see that I'm fucking dead, but I can't resist Ergile. You got me. Oh man, that's insane. Sydney says, "Can you do a quick summary?" Man, I've been talking for 90 minutes. Ain't no quick summary with this shit. I think if you rewind like 10, 20 minutes, I did a quick summary. Okay, fine. You want another quick summary? I'm going to do it. Here you go. We had 2 expert witnesses testifying today on day 16 of the Julian Assange extradition hearing. Okay? One of them is Maureen Baird. She used to work as a warden at MCC, Metropolitan Correction Center in New York. And we also had Lindsay Lewis, who is an attorney. She represented Abu Hamza. And both of these expert witnesses came and said the same goddamn thing. Julian Assange is extremely likely to be placed under special administrative measures, which are these draconian, inhumane conditions during pre-trial and post. It's a certainty. These people have worked in the goddamn prison system, okay? Maureen was a warden. She had people placed under SAMs under her watch. And when it comes to Lindsay Lewis, she represented Abu Hamza. He was placed under special administrative measures. So they're both in agreement, and we've heard this from countless witnesses. I can't count how many times we've heard this, that it's a certainty Assange is going to be placed. This is obscene. We're talking about a man being placed alongside terrorists, just like he's right now in fucking Belmarsh prison. I've told you this a million times. Just the fact that he is right now in London in a maximum security prison with terrorists is obscene. And, you know, Fitzgerald even asked, will Julian Assange be granted the same amenities or privileges that he is here, being able to fraternize with other prisoners, being able to see a psychologist, you know, as a category B prisoner? No, he won't. No, he won't in the US. And this idea that the prosecution were trying to sell the whole time, that you can somehow alleviate SAMs, that you can somehow overturn SAMs, and that even if you are placed under SAMs, that you could maybe appeal against them in pre-trial. It's obscene. All of this is nonsense. So they've been selling this lie that special administrative measures are humane, that you can appeal them if you don't like them, and that somehow this step-down program is a way for prisoners to work their way to a better phase where they can earn one phone call a month, maybe if they're lucky. This is ludicrous. We're talking about a fucking journalist here being placed with terrorists. This whole conversation is diabolical. So if Julian Assange is extradited, it's an absolute certainty that he's going to be placed under these inhumane, draconian conditions in ADC, Alexandria Detention Center in Virginia, in ADX Florence post-trial after he's convicted. And this is a life sentence. You don't see the sun when you go in. You don't see the sun. They're punitive and arbitrary measures, right? That's what Lewis said. And there you go, man. I mean, I don't know what else to say. This idea also that the prisons have some kind of suicide prevention program of any caliber is nuts. It's not happening. You know, pointing to a figure and saying, oh, look, 10 out of 100,000 kill themselves only, as if that's some kind of achievement. It's not a selling point. 10 out of 100,000 is 10 too many. All right, one is one too many. So they can't guarantee whatsoever that Julian Assange's health won't be affected by this. They can't guarantee whatsoever that he won't kill himself. They can't guarantee that he won't be placed under SAMs. You know why? Because all of these things are practically certain if he's sent there and placed in such a torturous conditions. So there you go. I mean, chalk that up again. Add it to the list of witness 955 or whatever. I don't know what the fucking number is now, that have all agreed on the same things, that these super administrative measures are punitive, they're draconian, they're inhumane, and Julian Assange is a journalist. He doesn't deserve to be placed under these conditions, and you know, he's going to be there, unfortunately, because the U.S. government are out to get him. That's the thing, man. This entire conversation is absurd. So I hope that was an effective recap. Again, I'm really exhausted. You'll have to forgive me, especially after talking for 90 fucking minutes. But yeah, I think you get the gist of it. This kangaroo court is in full session indeed. So listen, I'll try and take your questions now if you have any questions. Before I do, if I can please remind you guys to support the show. This trip is expensive. You know, London is a shithole, but it's an expensive shithole. So I really need your support. You know, we're out here on our own dime. It's just me, man. Yeah, you know, independent media. We're supporting our whole project based on you guys and your help. So if you can, please support the show. All the links are in the live chat. PayPal.me/PapiChulaman, Patreon.com/PapiChulaman. All of the links are in the live chat, and I really appreciate any help, all your comments and everything. So let me just see here. There we go. Claudia was kind enough to drop the Venmo and the CashApp and all this stuff. I really appreciate that. So let me just see your comments over here. I haven't been able to keep up because I was trying to get everything out. I hope that was concise. I hope that was, you know, you got to take into consideration that there's so much going on. And I wanted to make sure I get every single detail out to you. So yes, it does take time to explain it. You're condensing 7 hours into like 90 minutes. So there you go. We got a bunch of super chats over here. We got the first one from Mr. Broken-ass. Thank you for going and doing this. Thank you. I appreciate that. We got another one from Mini Ninja Love. There's no note, but I appreciate the love, Mini Ninja Love. We got another one over here from Mberg33. Patriot Act is why Assange's is grouped as such. Yeah, I mean, these national security inmates, right? They've basically equated journalists, whistleblowers with terrorists. This is obscene. This is absurd. And the Patriot Act was just one of many installments getting us to where we are now. You know, this unwarranted, illegal wiretapping and surveillance, this war on whistleblowers and journalists, this overclassification of things. And it's kind of like it's ironic, right? Because as Daniel Ellsberg pointed out, you don't even bother classifying the war crimes in the same way they used to. But nonetheless, they'll fuck you over and try to prosecute you and extradite you for leaking those war crimes, even though they're not the same classification anymore. It's kind of an interesting paradox, right? So, what a screwed up state of affairs. Mberg sent a bunch of super chats. I'm going to read all of these. Thank you very much for the generosity. He says, drone strikers say, what? Fun-sized. Espionage judge 100% conviction rate. Yeah, so if you're talking about Baretzer, declassified UK, Vanessa Baretzer, she's the judge in this extradition hearing in this kangaroo court. Dude, she spoke like 2 fucking minutes the entire day. I'm not kidding. I was there. She spoke for like 2 fucking minutes. I mean, look, by all means, she's there to judge and govern the court. Yes, it's not her role to give tirades and you know, read novellas out loud. Sure, but at the same time, she's not impartial. Yeah, exactly. She's very partial and extremely biased, and she's not doing anything that favors the defense in any way. I mean, the maximum that she did today, and again, this was exceptional because she's usually helping out the prosecution. Today, she just cut off Dobbin when she said that, when she was pressing Maureen on her answer about suicide. That was the only thing. Very few. I mean, she should have thrown out the goddamn indictment if she was actually being fair, if she's really impartial. She's not. And there you go. In order for mob lawyers, there's mob judges. Yeah, there you go. I love everything you are doing, Richard. Thank you, Mberg. I appreciate all the kind words and the donations. I really do. Cam35 says, go buy yourself a pint. You earned it. Dude, I'm done. Like, I'm ready to just, like, fall back and sleep. You know, I was supposed to live stream the fucking debates with you guys tonight. You remember that? Because we got Trump and Biden tonight. Finally. But, dude, I don't know if I can... I don't even have a fucking computer. Like, I don't even know how to do that here with this phone. I could live stream myself and maybe watch it somehow. I don't know how, but I'm so exhausted. I can't miss it. We'll figure something out. Alec says, have an Earl Grey tea to make this shithole a little warmer. Thank you, yeah. I will. Chris, thank you very much. Says, please mention that the U.S. has tricked UK courts in previous extraditions. They promise one thing and then break their commitments. Well, I mean, at this point, it's not even a question of tricking anyone. They've taken over the court. I've told you this since the start, man. This is happening right here in the city of London, but the United States, the DOJ is holding the gavel. You know, that's what's at stake here. Now, when it comes to previous extraditions, I mean, dude, don't get me started. Like, where do you want to begin? Where do you want to begin? They make reassurances all the time about how Julian Assange oh, he's not at risk, his health is fine. Look, we have such a robust suicide prevention program. And you look at the goddamn figures, and no, that's not reassuring whatsoever. You know, like I said before, 10 out of 100,000, no, that's far too many. 14 prisoners with psychosis. That's if you're considering depression is not serious mental illness. It is. That's a very neurotypical, ignorant thing to say, to assume that only psychosis is serious mental illness. No. It's not a competition, motherfucker. So I'm not interested in any fucking reassurances that they give. And, you know, when they were talking about, like, once again, just in the way that they argue, you can tell that they don't even know what their real agenda is. I mean, we know what it is, but 1 second they're saying that Julian Assange is going to be placed under SAMS because it's in the indictment, and then they're saying, no, he's not. And it's not likely that he's going to be placed under SAMS. And then they're saying that, oh, well, even if he is, he can appeal it, even though we know that this is not successful and no prisoner has ever been able to overturn them. So there, you can tell just from 1 minute to the next that anything they say is garbage, and they're changing their position from 1 minute to the next. Now, you can come here and say, oh, well, that's normal. That's normal. That's just how the prosecution does things. It's trying to argue all sides and, you know, show that there are no holes in the story. No, this is just exposing that, you know, they're trying to cover up the real agenda by making excuses for one point that's countered and essentially debunked by whoever the expert witness is, and then jumping to a next one. Now, we can't win with them. You know what I'm saying? It's obscene. I'm scared to knock my goddamn phone over. I'm scared to knock my goddamn phone over. But yeah, that was it, man. I look dreadful. It's the lighting. It's the lighting. Okay, it's definitely the lighting. I don't have my fancy equipment with me now, so you can't blame me. But yeah, that was surreal, man. That was really an honor to meet Julian's father today in the morning. That was insane. Like, that actually happened. And yeah, I was standing like a few feet from Kristen, who's the editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks, and being in the courtroom. All of this is very surreal. It's crazy. And like I said, man, the hearing wraps up this week. Defense and prosecution, they have to submit closing statements, closing arguments by written form, because that's been taken off the table too. And Judge Baretzer wants to get rid of this entire hearing as fast as possible. And she wants to deliver a decision in 2021, right? Yeah. But she admitted the other day, she said that it's a political trial. She admitted it. When she asked, like, will the U.S. elections, the U.S. presidential elections, will they have an effect on the hearing? Bitch, what? You tell us. You tell us if it's going to have an effect. It shouldn't. Look, man, if Julian Assange didn't break a law, we all know that. But technically speaking, if you're talking about a defendant, any defendant, and they allegedly broke a law, who the fuck cares who the president is? The law is the same, right? Does the law change on November 3rd? No. So why would the presidential elections affect the hearing unless the hearing is political and therefore illegal? Look, man, this is, by the way, this is another very interesting trick and a very funny trick with the law. Are you ready? So listen, when fuck, man, this is so crazy. There's so many plot holes in this entire hearing. So listen, when you have a treaty, the way that you translate that into UK law is with an act. Okay, so for example, when you have the European Convention on Human Rights, in UK law, it's called the Human Rights Act. Okay, and so likewise, when you have the UK-US extradition treaty, in UK law, it's called the Extradition Act. Okay, from 2003. Now, they're very clever fucking cookies, right? Because the way that they did this is that when it comes to the law, the UK law, okay? So you have the Extradition Act, and then, you have the Extradition Treaty, and then the Act in UK law. The Act does not forbid political trials. The Extradition Act in UK law does not mention political trials. It's like a bare bones, stripped down version of the same fucking thing that it's supposed to be implementing, the Extradition Treaty, which does mention that political trials are forbidden. So why didn't they put that into the UK law? Isn't that weird? Because this is exactly what's going on. It's a political trial. It's a witch hunt against Julian Assange. Motherfuckers. Motherfuckers. Oh, they're very clever. They're really clever cookies. Thankfully, thank God, we actually have the part about mental health and, well, mental and physical health, right? Section 91. So this is for Category 2 territories, which is the United States. I sound like a fucking lawyer. This is for Category 2 territories, which is the United States. And in Section 91, it refers to mental and physical detriment. So detriment towards physical and mental health. And obviously, that's why we already talked about this. That's why we heard testimony regarding Assange's mental health, his physical health, from Crosby, from Koppelman, from... who else did we have? Fazell, well, he was called by the prosecution. You know, we had 4 or 5 doctors and neuropsychiatrists coming in to talk about his health. And all of it thrown out there in the open. They didn't do that for fun. They did that because they need to show that this Section 91 should block the extradition. The judge should throw it out. And just as we're seeing here, if it's political, she should also throw it out. There are so many reasons why she should throw this fucking hearing out. So many. There's no fucking way you can look at this thing and deem it to be legal and have any legal basis. It's unbelievable that this is even happening. It's really frustrating, man. I'm telling you. Like, the worst part is that we don't even know if it's going to make a difference. Probably won't. Because if she had any sense in her, if she was really doing her job, she wouldn't have let this entire hearing even take place. So there you go. Rob Junot says, every word for Julian counts, Richie. Thank you. I appreciate the support. I really do. I appreciate you guys. Emberg says, branded meme idea. Soup Nazi saying, all the shoes for you come back all year. I love that you sell masks since that's where it's at. Oh, yes, the lion masks. Yeah, they're great. I actually should have worn one. I'm like the only person in the court who's wearing a mask. I have my black face mask on. But yeah, what am I supposed to say, man? So, I'll be back tomorrow, hopefully, if MI5 don't get rid of me in the Thames, with the day 17 of the extradition hearing. Once again, there are no phones allowed. There's nothing allowed in. So, I'm resigned to a pen and a pencil. A pen and a pencil? No, a pen and a pad, you idiot. You can tell I'm fatigued. But yeah, that's all I have. And I'm trying to get down as many notes as I can for you guys. And I'm just telling you what's happening in the courtroom. This is first-hand testimony, right? It's first-hand testimony. Enter it into the historical record. And I hope people actually remember what a fucking sham trial, what a pony show, what an abomination and a travesty of justice this entire procedure is. All of it, from top to bottom, from start to finish, from A to Z. It's a giant pile of manure. That's the only way I can qualify this entire thing. So that's all I gotta say, man. Oh, we got a donation or a couple donations on Venmo. So I don't know if there's any notes attached, but let me read them out to you if there are. 1 second. Okay, hold on. So this is from... I don't know. My goddamn thing is not loading. Okay, there's no note attached. There's no note attached, but thank you to Dimitri. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody who's supporting the show. Remember, everything is on my own dime. I'm out here on my own. So that's the way it is, man. But if we don't cover it, who will? I thank you guys for the support. I'm going to sign off now. And I'll be back tomorrow with more updates. Maybe we'll watch the debate tonight. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you very much for supporting independent journalism, and the links to Patreon, GoFundMe, all of this crap, it's in the chat. So I'm depending on you guys, basically. All right. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for liking the video, commenting, and helping with the algorithm. It really, really helps. It really makes a difference. YouTube is not favorable. Putting it mildly, they don't look favorably upon any kind of Assange coverage. So, we We're doing our best. Thank you very much, guys. I'm just gonna see if there's any more comments that I maybe missed. I don't know. I don't want to miss anybody, but all right. Yes, I will get some rest. Thank you very much. You guys are really sweet. You guys are really sweet. Okay, guys. Thanks for sharing the video. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye and take care.